Well, thank you, Anne, for inviting HCCI out again. As you stated, my name is Elisa Moore, and I'm the Education Coordinator for HCCI, as well as a Certified Housing Credit Counselor. Today, we're going to discuss ways to get caught up and stay on top, because really that's all we want, right? Today, we're going to discuss how to develop a spending plan, where to start when beginning a savings plan. I'll provide some tips on how to stay organized, and then we'll have some time for any additional questions at the end. I would like to keep this as informal as possible, so if you have questions, please feel free to ask as we're going through this. When it comes to developing a spending plan, it's always a good idea to create goals for yourself. Goals in budgeting are like goals that you just make in any other part of your life. They are what help us create the type of lifestyle we want to have. Goals also ensure we're doing all we can to stay on track. So the first thing you want to do is identify your short-term, midterm, and long-term goals. A good rule of thumb is to align your savings goals to your budget. This means that we're going to be utilizing a more economic way of thinking, wants versus needs, which means you can't always have what you want when you want it. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices and compromises to get the things you want, and every choice has some type of a consequence, whether it is positive or negative. Pretty basic, right? And not unlike what we used to hear from our parents growing up. One way to begin creating goals is by utilizing the SMART system. A lot of organizations utilize the SMART system of goal planning because it forces you to make goals that are precise in nature. Your goal or objective should be able to answer each of these questions. Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it something that I can attain? Is it relevant? And in what time frame would I like to reach this goal? Utilizing the system not only increases your opportunity for success, but it also makes the necessity of goal planning less tedious or complicated. So when it comes to choosing your financial goals, it's always good to know how time frame can affect the types of goals that we create. For instance, a short-term goal is one that can be achieved in 6 months or less. What do you think might be an example of a short-term goal? Planning a wedding. Yes, definitely. And what a fun goal that can be, right? What else might be a goal that would fit into that time frame? Well, let me tell you a little bit about Elisa. When I was in my 20s, I couldn't pay my bills on time to save my life. And it wasn't because I didn't have enough money to do so. It was just because I was so unorganized with my finances. I would pay things late, and what happens when you pay things late? That's right, you get a late charge. So here I am basically throwing money away to my creditors just because I wasn't more organized. So one of the first goals I made when I began budgeting was that I want to pay my bills on time in the amount I'm expected to pay them this month. Seems easy, right? Well, actually it was. And it worked because I had something to refer to that helped keep me on track. So not only was I successful in reaching that goal, which would make anyone feel good, but I was also able to accomplish it with little effort. It just took a little bit of planning, writing down some due dates. It amazes me how much we can simplify our lives if we just take a few minutes to evaluate it. A lot of us just go through life day to day, not thinking about the future because we're so caught up in life happening at us in the present. Anyone else here ever experienced that? Constantly playing catch up only to have something else happen after things began to settle down again. No, that never happens, right? Well, honestly, when you start with an attainable short-term goal, it not only makes you feel good about accomplishing something positive for yourself, but it will also enable you to take control of your life again. And maybe it's not paying your bills on time. Maybe it's getting in touch with your loan servicer and requesting a different payment option because the current payment is just too much for you to handle. It is amazing how much of a difference it can make by picking up the telephone and asking the person on the other end what other options you have available. Moving on, let's look to midterm goals. Midterm goals typically range between 6 months to 5 years. When thinking about potential midterm goals, I look at the peripheral things in my life. How's my car doing? Might I need to purchase a different vehicle within the next 5 years? So maybe this is a good time to be saving up for a down payment. Or if you're a homeowner, how's your HVAC system doing? Or your appliances? It never fails that something will need to be replaced within a 5-year period. So once again, rather than allowing life to happen at you, just start saving money today for when things begin to age and break down. So you'll have the ability to pay for them with cash rather than putting them on a credit card or having to take out a signature loan with a high interest rate. Finally, we have long-term goals. Long-term goals are 5 years or more. So how are you doing with savings for retirement? Or maybe the family is talking about taking a big vacation. Rather than putting it on your credit card, make it a prepaid vacation. Do your homework in advance with these goals so you know the money you need will be sitting there waiting for you when the time comes. Just remember to align your savings goals to your budget. I know it seems like a crazy puzzle in the beginning, but everything will fit together in place when you take the time to do it. When putting a budget together, ensure that you have every expense listed that costs you money each month. First, think about housing, your mortgage, your rent. Next, think about utilities. And I can't stress enough how helpful it can be to enroll in an average payment plan for natural gas and electricity, if that's an option for you. You won't have to worry about huge fluctuations in your utility bills, and it can really help minimize extra effort in reaching your goals and tweaking your budget each month. Food. Don't just think about going to the grocery store. Also include items such as dining out, or if you hit up the cafeteria. Rather than decrease the net income on your paycheck by choosing to pay via payroll deduction, take control of it and either bring your lunch into work with you or pay cash for anything you purchase while you're here at work. Also, if you have children, there might be a fee you have to pay for school lunches, so include that in your budget too as a subcategory under food. If you have pets, include food, maintenance products, and visits. If you have a gym membership, even if the monthly membership is automatically withdrawn from your bank account, remember to put it in there. Clothing. I don't know how many people I see when I ask them how much they think they spend on clothing each year, they tell me they haven't bought anything new in the last 2 years. Really? How are your shoes doing? Do you maybe have to buy new undergarments once or twice a year? I understand that people like to be conservative in their estimations, but at the same time you have to be realistic too. And when it comes to clothing, think about your kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, anyone else that you might purchase clothing for throughout the year. And don't forget back to school clothes. Oh my stars, when my kids were young and August hit, I was spending upwards of $300 to $400 on clothes and shoes, depending on how much they'd grown over the summer. And half the time I still had to go out some other time during the year and get them more shoes or other items because the other ones had worn out. Yeah, I didn't like August very much. It was always a very expensive month. Medical. If your employer offers you a group plan, please take advantage of it. It's usually a lot less expensive than getting health insurance on your own. Also, think about co-pays. How many times do you typically see the doctor throughout the year? Do you take prescription medications or have allergies and need to buy over-the-counter medications throughout the years? Vitamins, supplements, anything that helps to keep you well, make sure you're accounting for it in your budget. Education. Are you planning to go back to school? Will you have to pay for it, or if you have student loans that you're paying down, include that monthly payment. If you have children, think about enrollment in school supplies at the beginning of the year, and then think about other school supplies that you might have to purchase as the year progresses. Do they run out of paper or pencils, or might they have a special project in a class? And how many of you have children involved in activities, whether or not they're school related? They can get pretty expensive. I have met with clients, and the main reason why they were in my office was because they spent so much of their income on their children's activities. Sporting events that took them to out-of-town tournaments that cost them more in gas, food on the road, hotel rooms. I understand wanting to give your children a nice childhood, but you can't do it at the expense of your budget. This is also a great learning opportunity for your kids if putting them in multiple sports and activities throughout the year is occurring right now in your life. Ask them to choose which one they most want to participate in during school and over the summer. Explain to them how much it costs for them to participate in each of them. Whether or not you want to believe it, you are shaping their views on how to manage their finances in the future right now by what you are doing. If you're showing your children that they can do whatever they want when they want to do it, then there's a good possibility that they're going to mirror that behavior when they get older, regardless of whether or not they have the means financially to spend their money that way. So I encourage you to include them in these types of decisions and begin doing it at a young age. The more accurate information they receive from you when they're young, and the more exposure they get in regards to managing money correctly, will help them leaps and bounds when they get out there on their own. Because it really all does come down to good decision making, doesn't it? Mad money. Does everyone know what mad money is? Yes, it's money you can spend on whatever you want. We always encourage our clients to keep some fun in your budget. That's the main reason why people don't like budgeting. And by the way, since people dislike the B word of budgeting so much, that's why they came up with this new terminology, a spending plan. Doesn't that sound nice? Spending plan. I always say budgeting is a lot like dieting. When you're on a diet, you're keeping yourself from eating something. Just like in budgeting, you rein yourself in and limit how much you spend. I don't know about you, but when I'm dieting, I usually nail my dieting goal the first month. Not eating donuts, cookies, whatever it is, I'm choosing this time. And then we'll have a treat day at work. And it never fails, someone always brings in the exact food that I told myself I was not going to indulge in while I was on this diet. So here's me. You know, I've been good this whole last month. One isn't going to hurt me, right? But how many do you think I actually eat? That's right. When it's all said and done, Elisa is licking the plate. I'll regret it later, but I'm enjoying it now, right? Because that's what we do. We talk ourselves into doing things. So how about this? You've been saving for the last 6 months. You are so proud of yourself. You're really doing this. That Elisa gal encouraged you to make a goal, and by God, you're doing it. And then you happen to be out at Best Buy. And wouldn't you know that one thing you've been wanting is staring you in the face. And it's on sale. Because when we see a sale, we think we're getting a better deal, which just adds fuel to the fire in this respect. So there you are. You know, I've been doing great the last 6 months. I haven't touched my savings at all. I do have enough money in there, and it's on sale. So what are the odds you're going to go ahead and buy it? Pretty good, right? Because we talk ourselves into doing things. And the great thing about having these conversations with yourself is that you are your only judge. And I imagine you're going to give yourself a pretty good argument to make the decision work out in your favor, wouldn't you think? So put some mad money in your budget. That way when you see something you want within reason, or get that call from your friend who says that the kids have been driving her crazy all day and she just wants to get out of the house for some adult time, guess what? You don't even have to think twice about whether or not you have the money available to do it. It's already in your budget. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with splurging or making it an incentive to be able to get something you really want. Just make sure it's not taking away from anything else in your budget, and that you're taking the time to think about what you're buying and the money you're going to need to use to buy it. That slows you down from making those costly impulse purchases. Transportation. Anything that has to do with your vehicle, so making the car payment if you have one, keeping the insurance and tag up to date, and having gas money. Or if you don't have your own vehicle, maybe you give gas money to someone else, or you pay for bus fare to get you where you need to go. However you get from point A to point B, make sure it's accounted for in your budget. Insurance. There's a reason why insurance is available, and I understand the argument of why do I want to pay for something I might not ever need. The operative word in that sentence is might. Yes, you might or might not, but if the worst does occur, at least you're covered for some or all of what you'd be responsible for paying out. So briefly, I just want to touch on a few types of insurance. Auto insurance. As long as you don't have a car loan, just make sure the amount of coverage you have on your car still fits with the age of the car. Health insurance is a necessity. I'm sure you all know this given the line of work you're in. Renter's insurance. Does everyone know what renter's insurance is and why it's important to have? Right. It protects your things. A lot of people believe that if the place they're renting is ever burglarized or if there's a fire or natural disaster, their landlord is going to replace their things. No. The landlord has homeowner's insurance, which protects the house, the shell that you're living in. But you are responsible on your own for everything that you bring into that house. And in most cases, you'll be paying less than $25 a month for it, especially if you can tie it in with your automobile insurance. Life insurance. There are two types. There's term life insurance. This type of insurance typically has a lower monthly premium, and it covers you for a certain period of time, like 10, 15, 20, 25 years. The other type of life insurance is whole life. Whole life is a lot different from term life because it builds up cash value over time. The premium is going to be higher, but at some point you will have the ability to borrow from it if you need to. And finally, savings. It's just a good idea to be putting money away each paycheck to pay for those unexpected things that come up in your life. Having it in your budget makes it an item that you're forced to deal with monthly, rather than, if I have enough money after I pay my bills, maybe I'll put some away. If there's no plan for savings and you happen to have money left over after paying your bills, there's a good chance that you'll just blow the money each month anyway. Now here's a great worksheet. I hand this one out to clients who come in to see me. It's called the Prioritizing Expenses Worksheet. Depending on your current financial situation, perhaps you have the ability to pay all of your bills, But one month you receive a medical bill for a visit you had, and you find out whatever the hospital or clinic did to get you back up and running again is going to cost you more out of your own pocket than you anticipated. You contacted the place and they tell you that you make too much money to get any type of hardship agreement, so what do you do now? Enter this worksheet. But before I go more in depth, let me share this with you. Your budget is really a blueprint of where you choose to have your money go each month. So your budget is your foundation. Now everybody knows having a good foundation is the first step in creating anything in life. Relationships, friendships. So your budget can truly help you when unexpected expenses arise, because now you have something that is in black and white and tangible that you can manipulate. So maybe you can cut back on dining out this month, or if you're not on a contract, maybe you can discontinue your cable for a few months until you get this bill paid. Without a budget, you could be in limbo. And the reason for that is this. First, your mental capacity is going to be compromised because you'll be fixated on not having enough money to pay the bill in full. Second, the last thing you'll want to do is actually take the time to sit down and create a budget at that time because you already know you're going to be short of money. How many of us are going to want to do something when we automatically know we're not going to be satisfied with the results? So that's really why a budget is important. So let's take a look at this worksheet. As you can see, it lists a ton of expenses on the left side. You might have some of these expenses, you might have all of them, or you might have expenses that aren't even listed on here. Guess what? It's your worksheet, so you can change it to fit your life. The next column says budget. This is where you're going to write in how much you have to pay for each of those expenses in a month's time. The next column says survival. The survival column includes those expenses that you absolutely have to pay each month. So how do you determine what to put in that column? A good rule of thumb is if it can hurt you or your family or be taken away from you, then it needs to be in your survival column. So what's one thing that might fall into that category? Of course, your mortgage or your rent. I understand that this is probably the biggest expense you have each month, but by all means pay it, even if you can't pay for anything else. The reason for that is because since it does cost so much, it's probably going to be the hardest expense for you to catch up on. And where are you going to be if your house gets foreclosed upon or you get evicted? Exactly. So make it a priority. What's another expense that you absolutely have to pay for each month? Right, utilities. What happens if you don't pay your utilities? They turn you off, and you have to pay even more money to get them turned back on. So pay that bill, and if you can't pay the whole bill, then contact the company and see if you can make a payment arrangement. Once again, one phone call can be the difference between peace of mind or running scared wondering when you're going to come home and have no lights. Okay, so what's another expense that you need to pay for each month? Food, yes! I don't know how many clients I see that when I ask them how much they spend on groceries throughout the month, they tell me it's whatever they have left over after they pay all of their bills. Really? Is that realistic? I don't know about you, but I'm not going to be waiting until the end of the month to eat. I'm going to be scavenging under couch cushions for loose change, borrowing money from my parents or friends. The point is, one way or another, I'm going to find a way to feed myself and my family. So don't make food less critical than what it really is. We all need to eat. Okay, so what's another bill we need to pay? How about transportation? If you have a car loan, what's going to happen if you don't make your car payment? Right, they're going to repossess it. And do you think they're going to care about your situation? Probably not. So once again, either pay it or see if there's a payment arrangement that can be set up. Make sure you have the money to renew your tag each year and be insured. And don't forget about having gas. It's not going to do you any good to have a vehicle if it can't get you to the job to make the money that's going to allow you to pay your bills. Or like I said before, have gas money ready to give to someone else, or the money you need for bus fare in your budget is a priority expense. And finally, I say anything that's government related should be paid. So student loans, child support, back taxes, any type of debt that might cause your paycheck to be garnished, your tax refund to be taken, or your bank account to be wiped out. In most cases, the government will do what they can to set up payment arrangements. It's when they have to track you down or get no response whatsoever that they engage in these tactics to get their money. So take advantage of those initial opportunities for establishing communication with those entities. It will reduce the pain of having no control of your money when they decide they're ready to take it. And then one other item that a person in one of my classes brought up, I have now added to my priority list. Being in the type of profession that you are, it might seem like a no-brainer, but I see too many people in my office who, when I ask about out-of-pocket expenses for medication, they tell me they only get it when they have the money. Please, 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 if your doctor took the time to diagnose you and prescribe you with medication, then that means there's a reason why you need to be taking it. Do not make this a back burner item. Think back to how I determine what should be considered a priority, if it can hurt me or my family or be taken away. I think not taking your medication could impact all those scenarios, don't you? So to recap, things that should be included in your survival column: rent or mortgage, utilities, transportation, food, government debts, and medication. Now, if you look at the rest of the columns, you'll see there's a column that says comforts. The comforts column is one that we hope, if you're not already there, that you'll get there eventually. This is when you have enough money to pay all of your bills on time in full. You might not have a penny left to your name, but by God, everything got paid that month. And then finally, the above and beyond column. This occurs when you finally eliminated enough debt or increased your income enough that you have some money left over after paying your bills. So what are you going to do with it? Put it in savings for a vacation or retirement, or are you just going to blow it? It's really up to you. Next thing I'd like you to think about are those non-monthly expenses. These are the expenses that we might only pay quarterly, twice a year, or annually. So I have a few of them listed here. Auto insurance, school-related items, gifts, auto tag renewal. That's a lot to keep track of, isn't it? My car tag was always due in July, every year. For the first part of my adult life, do you think I was ever ready to renew my car tag in July, which was at the same time every year? No. And as a result of that, usually there are one or two bills that weren't going to get paid that month. But there is a remedy for this. The Schedule of Non-Monthly Expenses worksheet. Planning for your non-monthly expenses is going to eliminate different expenses from creeping up on you that you know you're going to have to pay at some point throughout the year. The way that this worksheet works is that you'll see some different types of expenses listed on the left side of the sheet. Then you see the months of the year along the type. On the right side of the sheet, it says yearly cost. This is how much you know the expense is going to be when it comes due, or it's an estimation of what you think it will be. And the final column says average monthly amount. So let's use a calculation where I can show off my amazing math skills. So in a perfect world, my tag renewal in Shawnee County is $120 a year. I would take $120 and divide it by 12, which gives me $10. This is the amount that I would have to set back each month in my savings account. So I'd write $10 under each month in the car license plates column. That way, when that bill comes due, I'll have that money ready to go at my fingertips. Now that's just one example, but you may have multiple non-monthly expenses you pay each year. So just do the same calculation and fill in the boxes. However, be sure to add up all of those expenses on a monthly basis so you know how much money you have to set back each month for all of them combined. And then make changes to the worksheet as the amounts change from year to year. This worksheet really does help eliminate the stress of having these types of expenses. It is a wonderful tool. Well, I do believe this is a perfect place to transition over to savings plans. So budgeting, got to know how much you have to work with each month to get your bills paid on time. And saving, putting money aside to assist you with future expenses, which will hopefully reduce the moments of life happening at you. So let's start with the basics. When you get paid, I encourage you to pay yourself first. You worked hard for that money, so do yourself the service of acknowledging a job well done. There's 3 different things I want you to consider saving for. The first thing is an emergency fund. Has anyone heard of an emergency fund? An emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses put away, untouched, in an account for those big things that could happen in your life. This isn't, I need to get a tire replaced money. That's what your regular savings account is for. This is for losing a household income that you rely on to pay your bills with. This can be due to the death of a spouse, unemployment or a layoff, fire, natural disaster. The reason why an emergency fund is a good idea is because whatever it is you're having to go through at that time, the last thing you're going to want to be wanting to worry about is how in the world are you going to get your bills paid that month. And having that kind of money saved up isn't going to happen overnight. I'm still working on mine. But the point is, the sooner you start saving, the better off you'll be if something like this were to happen to you. Next, save back for your periodic expenses. Does everybody remember what periodic expenses are? That's right. They're the expenses we don't pay every month. Wonderful. And then think about saving back for retirement. Meet with a professional to determine how much you need to save up now so you can have the lifestyle you want when you retire. The biggest letdown for our older folks is that they did not save up enough for retirement, and they're feeling the pangs of it now during a time in their life when they had planned to just relax. I think the interesting thing about your savings options is that you have a lot of them that can actually make you money without you needing to put in a ton of effort or needing to know about Wall Street. For example, did you know that you could purchase an EE savings bond for only $25? That means if you reduced your dining out to say 3 times a month versus 6 times a month, you could purchase one of these bonds. And what's great about these is that they do double in value. It just takes time. These are the types of bonds that are great gifts for when a person has a baby or just to put away for your own children when they're born. Bonds can be purchased at a bank. You can do payroll deduction or you can request them from the Treasury Department, and I put their information on here if you want to contact them. The reason why I say EE bonds are great for children is because they can be used to pay for education when they're older. And like it says, it's tax-free. Let's face it, the more we can pay out of our own pockets towards our children's education is all the better than having to pay back student loans. Every little bit helps, right? There's another type of bond available, such as I-bonds. They can be purchased in 8 different denominations beginning at $50. They are inflation indexed, which means that as the cost of living goes up, so does the interest they earn each year. However, they can also go down, so I just encourage you to do your research. One great thing about I-bonds is that the interest earned is exempt from state and local taxation, and they're only taxed federally when they are redeemed or when it reaches maturity. Certificates of deposits, otherwise known as CDs, are great if you have at least $500 and don't care if it takes 6 months to 5 years for it to mature. I say, if you work in an organization or company that offers a 401k or 403b, by all means take advantage of it, because in those cases your employer is going to match you up to a certain percent. Free money. Also, it is still a good idea to save for retirement on your own. Who knows whether or not Social Security is going to be around, and it's very difficult to live on it without some type of other income anyway. So always be thinking about other ways to save for retirement on your own. Which brings me to individual retirement accounts, IRAs. There are 2 different types of IRAs, and it's a great way to save for retirement. Just know the difference between them before you get started. With a traditional IRA, you may be subject to income tax when you begin withdrawing it, since it's treated as ordinary income. A Roth IRA, on the other hand, is tax-free if earnings on the account and withdrawals occur after the person is 59 and a half. To get the most for your money, it's always good to meet with a professional, but just to familiarize you with some of the terminology, let's look at 3 different types of investments. First, there's the income investment. This investment pays monthly income through interest or dividends. Second, there's a stable investment, which is modest interest but provides the same return every year. And finally, there's the growth investment. It is possible for a growth investment to double every 6 to 9 years, so it has a high rate of return. An example of an income investment would be a mutual bond or money market fund, where you receive an income from interest or dividends that are compounded monthly. A growth investment would be individual stocks or a mutual fund or IRA. This is a combination of stocks and they pay at a higher rate. Finally, there's the stable investment like CDs or bonds that can be cashed out periodically. They earn modest interest, but they don't always keep up with inflation. So, have you overlooked anything? As I stated earlier, as we reach retirement age, we are hoping that we have planned accurately. Here's just a quick list of items to put on your to-do list to give yourself a better chance of being covered after you retire. First, put enough aside for medical care, so consider any visits to the doctor or prescriptions that might not be covered in full by Medicare or your supplemental insurance. Second, keep an adequate emergency fund. And remember, as you purchase new items, be sure you account for them in your emergency fund. Third, diversify your investments. We discussed 3 different types of investments. Seek out a professional and begin saving now if you haven't already. And fourth, pay yourself first. You always need to have a general savings account that you can tap into for the more trivial things that happen in your life. This is also where you can put the money for your non-monthly expenses. Now, I just want to give you a few tips to help you stay organized and reach your financial goals. It's a good idea to always know where you stand each month. So how do you do this? Whenever you make a purchase with a debit card, be sure to write it down in your check register and balance your checkbook monthly. This will reduce the chances of having bank errors that lead to overdrafts. It only takes 2 or 3 overdrafts to really get yourself in a bind. Save your receipts. Why would you want to save your receipts? Right, to track your expenses. What's another reason to hold on to your receipts? Okay. Have you ever purchased an item and had to return it to the store? Most places won't even look at you twice if you try to return something without a receipt. So try to hold on to your receipts for at least 30 days. That way you're not throwing money away if the item you bought can be returned for a refund or exchanged for something new. You'll also want to keep your receipts to check against your bank or credit card statements. Mistakes can happen and your receipt can get them corrected quickly. We spoke about tracking expenses a minute ago, and I just want you to know that there are smartphone apps out there that are free that can be helpful when it comes to tracking your expenses, especially while you're out in the community. We also offer a way to track expenses by using a worksheet called a Fritter Finder and a pocket tracker. And just so you know, we have all of the worksheets I share with you today on our website, and I encourage you to go there and check them out, print them off, do whatever that's going to help you to reach your financial goals. Okay, this is our Fritter Finder. This is a great tool because it allows you to track all of the smaller items we purchase, you know, the ones that don't seem like much at the time, but once you add them up at the end of the month, you're like, wow, I had no idea I spent that much. The way the Fritter Finder works is, as you can see, there are a list of expenses on the left side of it, and the numbers across the top are actually the days of the month. The back side of the Fritter Finder actually shows the same expenses with the numbers 17 through 31 for the rest of the days. Then you utilize a pocket tracker with it. The pocket tracker folds out and allows you to keep track of your receipts out in the community because it is really small, so it can be kept easily in your purse or your wallet. The pocket tracker has the same expenses listed across the top of it, but there is a place to put in your goal or stopping point for that particular expense. Use your budget and determine how much you can comfortably spend for each item. So this is more or less a reminder when you're out in the community to keep you on track with your budget. So if your budget says you can only spend $50 a month for dining out, then each time you go to the drive-thru, convenience store, coffee shop, or wherever you grab something to eat, you'll write down in your pocket tracker whatever it says on your receipt. And then when you get home, you can transfer that information to your Fritter Finder, the master sheet, for that particular expense under the date in which you made that purchase. If you're diligent and committed, at the end of the month, you'll be able to see exactly where all your money goes each month. The next tip I have for you is to get yourself into a routine when it comes to paying your bills and filing them away each month. How many people have heard of the envelope method? I see some head nods. Did you like it? I ask because I've spoken to people who swear by it, and then I've run into others who don't like it at all. Honestly, it comes down to your own self-control. With the envelope method, you actually write on the outside of an envelope what the money is for that's inside. This might present a problem for some people who have issues with impulse purchases. For instance, if it's 100 degrees outside and you hear the ice cream truck coming, if there's no money in your wallet or purse and you're just dying for a bomb pop, do you think the money in those envelopes are going to stand a chance? Probably not. So you do have to have a bit of self-control in this respect. There are also online resources available. www.mint.com is a great place to keep track of your income and expenses. If you like bar graphs and pretty colorful pie charts, then this is the place for you. And all you have to do is register your information and keep up with it. There's software on the market that you can purchase at any office supply store, and calendars are also a great option. When I was first learning to budget, the calendar was my friend. And there's also nothing wrong with utilizing a binder, notebook, or ledger to keep track of everything. You just need to know where it is when it's time to do this every month. And if you haven't established a routine yet, start today. The last tool I want to share with you is the Paycheck to Paycheck worksheet. I refer to this worksheet as the Getting Organized worksheet. Along the left side of it, there are those lists of expenses again, but the next column would have been a godsend to me in my early 20s when I was so unorganized. That's the due date column. The next column is the budget column, where you write in how much each expense is going to cost. But then you have these 4 other columns that say first check, second check, third check, fourth check. This worksheet is great when you're single or cohabitating with someone like a roommate or significant other, because you can list the net incomes for each person who's contributing to the household expenses and actually write in who's in charge of paying what. This eliminates that argument of, I thought you were going to pay that. No, I thought you were going to pay that this month. All the while you're having this discussion in the dark because your lights got cut off. Yeah, nobody can relate to that. This worksheet allows you to break up your larger monthly expenses into more manageable payments too. For instance, when I was first starting out, I worked a part-time job. As you can imagine, my rent payment was more than one of my paychecks. So what I would do was when I got paid, I would hold on to that one paycheck and not touch it. And then when I got paid again, then I would take the remainder I needed and would then write my check to the landlord. Now, do you think I had any problems for that 2-week period while I was waiting to get paid again? You bet your bottom dollar I did. I couldn't put gas in my car, I couldn't go to the grocery store. So then I learned how to split up the payments between my paychecks. So my rent was $500 a month. I would take $250 from my first paycheck and $250 when I got paid again from my other paycheck, and then I could write my check to the landlord while also being able to do anything else I needed to in between paychecks. But the great thing is that you can do this for all of your bills, so you can always ensure you have at least half of the cost of your monthly expenses covered with each paycheck. And don't forget to include your non-monthly expenses in this worksheet that you'll be putting away in your savings account. My final tip for you is to look to your community when you get in a pickle. There's United Way 211, where you just have to put in what you need and they'll get you set up with it in your area if it's available. There's Lifeline for phone service. And I cannot stress enough once more how nice it is to be on an average pay plan for your utilities. It really cuts down on those high gas bills in the winter and high electric bills in the summer, and allows you to have more reliable budget month to month. Depending on your income, LEAP, the Low Income Energy Assistance Program, can also be an option each year to help with high utility costs. There are food sharing programs as well as food drops that are done several times throughout the month at different locations around town. There are state programs that can help. I understand it's a pride thing, but these programs are really available for short-term use. If you find yourself needing assistance, I encourage you to utilize it. That's why it's there. Hospital financial programs. If you get a bill that you just know is going to be impossible for you to pay, open up that line of communication and see if you qualify for a financial hardship or request payment arrangements. Anything to avert them from sending it on to collections where it could begin hurting your credit score. And finally, call HCCI. We'd be happy to sit down with you, look at your situation, and see if we can come up with some options to help you resolve your issue. We also offer debt management plans, so if you have credit card debt, we might be able to lower your interest rates and monthly payments so you can get out of debt within 5 years. We have tenant and landlord counselors on staff to answer questions in regards to your rights and responsibilities as it relates to the law, and it doesn't matter whether you fall on the tenant side or the landlord side. Now, they're not attorneys, so they can't provide legal advice, but if they can't answer your question, they'll get you pointed in the right direction so you can get it answered. So I encourage you or anyone else you know to contact them if you ever find yourselves in that type of situation. They also know that most people, when they have these kinds of concerns, usually need an answer to their question today. So they do see people on a walk-in basis. Some of our other services we provide include homebuyer counseling, financial counseling, counseling on student loans, mortgage default, bankruptcy, and foreclosure prevention. So I encourage you to schedule an appointment with us if you ever have concerns regarding your finances or any of the other services that I just mentioned. We understand that not everyone works a standard 8-to-5 job, but please don't let that deter you from scheduling an appointment to come in and see us. We can do counsels over the phone, via email, and online, and we can schedule appointments before we open in the morning or after hours in the evening. The point is that you don't have to be seen in person if your schedule doesn't allow it. We try to be as versatile as possible to help as many people as we can. We also hold classes throughout the community, so check out our website under Education to see if we have anything you might be interested in attending in the future. Just a quick plug for our series we do have coming up in the fall. We will be giving our Women in Money series again that will begin in late September. It's for women, by women, and it covers topics on basic budgeting and credit all the way up to investments, retirement, wills, and estate planning. All of the information that women need to know to always be prepared. There is a class fee, but scholarships are available. They'll be held at the Topeka and Shawnee County Public Library in the evening, and registration is available right now on our website. HCCI has offices in Topeka, Lawrence, and Manhattan, and we provide our services and education within a 22-county radius in northeast Kansas. We are a nonprofit, and we've been around for over 40 years, so we must be doing something right. Okay, so now I'll open up the floor for any additional questions. Nobody? Really? Okay, well, thank you so much for today, or tuning in if you're seeing this on YouTube. I encourage you to take full advantage of the free counseling services at HCCI that your employer has provided to you, and please schedule a time to come in and see us if you feel we could assist you with your situation. That's why we're here. You all have a great day.